Hello and welcome back to Dynamic Entry. It is I, the professional henchman, as always, here today to talk about a game which has just stolen my heart. I really like this game, you guys. That game is Dispatch, recently released to the public from Ad Hoc Studios in collaboration with Critical Role. I love those guys. I mean, really, I love those guys. Honestly. Before I talk about anything with this game, I would like to offer a massive spoiler warning. If you are interested in the story of Dispatch, as well as any of the information regarding the characters, the experience itself, I highly implore you to please, if you got the 30 bones, go get the game yourself, try it, support these people. It's a fantastic experience. And I genuinely wouldn't want to spoil it for anybody who's looking to go in blind and just enjoy it. I really mean that. Today I'd like to talk to you about the game, as well as a tale of two very different Z teams on my experience thus far with Dispatch. I have recently completed all 8 available episodes for what we have in the game. And I gotta tell you, the way that things shook out really kind of set in why I feel like the game is so special. So Dispatch is, I guess, what I would consider a choose your own adventure, quick time event, resource management game and simulator to a degree. That sounds a little loaded, but if I had to draw a direct parallel to another game which I felt was similar, I'd have to go with something like Detroit Become Human, Until Dawn, or Heavy Rain. Now, admittedly, I have watched a lot of these games be played or looked into their lore because things in the story were interesting to me, but I tend to shy away from these types of games. It's just something about the worlds themselves, or maybe the art direction. It's never any one thing, but there's always something that just kind of keeps the hooks from setting and pulling me in all the way. However, when Dispatch was announced back in December 2024 at the Game Awards, I don't know, there was like a click. And I was just all in from the jump. Dispatch sees us taking on the role of Robert Robertson III, aka Mecha Man, this world's de facto third generation Iron Man, in the sense that he and his family have been defending the city of Los Angeles for over 50 years. And during that time, there had always been a Mecha Man watching over Los Angeles. It's a tough gig, and with that kind of responsibility obviously comes a great deal of danger. The first episode has us see what exactly that danger is, and subsequently leads to the rest of the story. After a near fatal crash finds you decommissioned, Robert has to figure out what his next moves are, and it's in a rather bad beatdown that he is rescued and subsequently offered a job by Blonde Blazer, a really big hero in Los Angeles at the time, and the face of SDN, a superhero agency which opens contracts with citizens around Los Angeles and provides superhero services anywhere from assistance with minor inconveniences to galactic or life-threatening stuff like kaijus coming out or the summoning of demons. It gets a little pressured. When it comes to the actual Z team, or the Phoenix program, who Robert is interacting with predominantly throughout the Dispatch story, these individuals are probably closer to the Thunderbolts, if you have any comic book knowledge, a group of one-time villains who are now being offered an opportunity to reform by way of SDN pulling them out and giving them a chance to be heroes, using their powers for good instead of whatever grand larceny or evil they were doing prior to. The cast itself consists of Invisigal, Golem, Flambe, Prism, Malevola, Sonar, Coupe, who we're going to call Coop for the rest of this, and Punch-Up. That would be our core cast, with a few additional members and becoming available as things progress, but we'll get there in time. So, Blonde Blazer approaches you with an opportunity and asks pretty genuinely, would you be willing to offer your assistance in teaching these has-beens how to actually become heroes and make a difference? Robert, not really having a lot of other options and being given a glimmer of hope into being able to become Mecha Man again, accepts, and he ends up starting his first day on a Friday, of all things, at SDN. Story opens up from there, and we learn about the different interpersonal relationships between the characters. It's your job to figure that out, which is a combination of both trial and error, as well as really paying attention. There's nuance in the game, and a lot of information is there for you if you're willing to take the time. I would not recommend playing this game with your phone in your face. I wouldn't recommend playing any game with your phone in your face unless it's like a gacha, which, ew, why? Why would you do that? But what I mean specifically is the game demands your attention, just like any interpersonal connection or conversation would. You can pause at any time, so there's no pressure there, which is a fantastic feature, by the way. Shouts out to the devs. Good job there. But it does demand your attention to be effective throughout your gameplay and your interactions with the characters as you choose the way that you navigate throughout the world. For myself, I ended the game on both of my runs so far with Everyman, mostly because I chose to let my Robert Robertson be a little more organic in some places. I believe that being the bigger guy and being the hero is super important. I just felt that there were certain sections where I kind of took off the gloves a little bit and chose to be a little meaner than I should have, if only to prove a point or to be honest about something. The way that you talk to people in this game is incredibly important, but I would say what's more important is sticking to your word. This game is very put up or shut up. If you say you're going to do something and you don't, they're going to remember that. They'll remember everything. You'll get used to seeing that up in the top corner. But really, I like that mechanic myself, and it's something that I remember from seeing in other types of games. No, this was not made by Telltale, I get it, don't yell at me in the comments. But in Telltale games like The Wolf Among Us, Telltale's Walking Dead, you could grab the Batman games if you want, there's a bunch. But that idea of there being a succinct memory, a trail that keeps you accountable for your actions, which I thought was great. I'm sure that I would have more interactions with this type of system if I played games like Until Dawn and Detroit, but we'll get there in time. I believe that Dispatch does a really good job of adapting the modern 2024-2025 feel of the world and kind of how cities in the US can be to a degree, and like how, popular media is and how people talk to each other, how people perceive things, X, Y, Z. It is kind of displayed through the dialogue and the interpersonal connections, people vaping, people being on social media. There's all the stuff there that you would see of other relative timepieces. Though I feel that it's kind of cool to see it in Dispatch, only because I just feel like anytime you look at like superhero media, a lot of the best stuff is, or like people will say a lot of the best stuff is like Silver Age or Gold Age theming. So it's a lot of like 1960s, 1980s, some 1990s. Like, I like that everything looked like stuff I could see if I looked out my window right now, for the most part. Magic powers, technologies, superheroes notwithstanding. First out, I loved the hacking sections. I loved the way that they played out. I thought that they were super clever, and I never felt as though I was unable to pick up on a hacking section. Anytime a new mechanic was introduced, I felt that they introduced it really cleanly, and then you were given another puzzle where you had to actually show off that you understood what was going on there. Even like the Mindfucker one that you get in episode 8, I want to say, at the end. That was a cool puzzle too, but I wouldn't say I had a ton of difficulty with it, because even though it was a stressful situation, the game had prepared me up until that point by really putting me through the paces and making sure I understood how things shook out mechanically, what the actual hacking did, what opening and closing a bridge could do, the Tesla coils, all kinds of stuff. I thought that was great. And I mean, that's just the hacking minigame. QuickTime events aren't bad. The first one that you get in the game has like this slight sluggish energy to it, and I'm grateful to say that that's like the only one that I felt like that with, because any of the other QuickTime events I felt were very snappy. And as long as you're paying active attention to the game and not, living on your phone the whole time, you won't have too much trouble keeping it going, and it doesn't make anything feel particularly choppy, which was a worry that I'd had in watching streams or seeing other games of a similar type in the past. One complaint that I did hear about when I started the game was that games like this, where you're given the opportunity to choose your own adventure to a degree, have the illusion of control, or from what my loose interpretation of it was, a series of choices which make the player believe that they have an overall greater impact than what is actually presented, because the actions of the player are eventually made inconsequential by other things. If I had to pick a direct, what exactly are you saying there? Mass Effect 3, the ending of Mass Effect 3, the way that that made people feel is that, the illusion of choice, the illusion that it mattered. I would actually argue that it does matter a ton in Dispatch, and those choices led to me having two very different playthroughs. On my first playthrough, when choosing if I was going to go solo or if I was going to date one of the people available, I leaned into the relationship with Blonde Blazer. I also made the decision to cut Sonar from my team, as well as made the choice to add Waterboy to my team, which I would say are three of the major decisions that you make in the beginning half of the game. Now, how this ultimately affects things can vary, because if you play the rest of the game right, I mean, you have a chance to come out with a really outstanding session. In my other save, I went the opposite direction. I decided I was going to go with the Invisigal romance, I took Phenomaman on the team, and I cut Coop. I didn't expect that to go any way the way that it did. On the one hand, my first save, I was thinking, okay, this is all gut reactions. I'm going just based off of what I'm learning in the moment. I don't have any prior information. This is all live. I don't have a chance to really do anything except adapt. In that playthrough, I struggled the entire time throughout the game. Not to say that I wasn't able to make it. I even managed to get modded on day 7, which is cool. But what I mean is that my Z team, for all their faults, were effectively kind of the losers. I was never able to level up my Dispatch rank, and while I was able to start to hit max synergy towards the end, it was a struggle figuring out who likes who most and who's this and that. Not like a huge struggle, but there were some learning curve issues, right? By the end of it, I ended up with a superhero team that jumped up by episode 8, and even though that they weren't the best and the brightest, they made it happen. They were able to save Los Angeles. They were able to thwart the plot of the Red Ring. And ultimately, in the confrontation with Shroud at the end, because I had chosen to neglect Invisigal, I subsequently was faced with her darker ending, I guess I'll say. I didn't take enough time to slow down and read in certain sections, and in others, I didn't choose to be a hero. What I mean by that is, there are instances in the game where your character is put to the test, and you're given an opportunity to act rationally, irrationally, or otherwise. It's 3 options, but they do matter. And no matter what you do, time is going to flow, conversations are going to go, and things are going to change. But making the decision and sticking with the decision really matters. And from what we're able to glean now, after everything is said and done, we might get answers as to what exactly that's going to mean in the future. Videos coming out on Moist Critical's channel with Aaron Paul, as well as a podcast episode that came out prior to episodes 7 and 8 dropping, reveal that there are feelings out there right now in wanting to create more Dispatch, but not wanting to drag out the story, which I'd like to say, I think that is a fantastic thing to say now. What you have here is special. I think that Dispatch is a very well written and very engaging piece of entertainment. However, I think that choosing to drag it out like the Hunger Games or the Harry Potter series would be a disservice to the quality of this product. I have no problem if they decide to take another year and then they release more like next year or like a year and a half later. Totally fine with that, as long as it feels right. And I mean, this game kind of does feel right. It's only 8 episodes, but in that 8 episode runtime, each running anywhere from about 35 to 45 minutes, as I might have mentioned at the beginning of the video, it feels very succinct. And even though I was like mentally and emotionally drained after finishing my first run, I sat there and said, no, I need to be heard again. And I went back in for the second one because I just had to know the differences. I really enjoyed the experience. And between the interesting character dialogue, the hacking sections, and the actual management of dispatching and sending people out, I think it's a great time considering the price point and the quality of what you're receiving. I think that it's just another victory in a very cool year of video games. There are some mean fucking contenders for Game of the Year this year, with Expedition 33 leading the pack among so many other great titles. But this one is kind of up there with Silksong for me, in that the price point is a lot lower than a lot of conventional titles, and the quality, I may have said that a couple of times where I'm like, this is going to be Game of the Year. But I don't know, you guys. I really feel like Dispatch is going to end up being Game of the Year. But what do you think? Do you feel weirded out and confused by everything that happened? Are you unable to trust anyone after talking to your team? Or are you and the Z team a brand new family moving forward into Los Angeles' future as the premier superhero team of Torrance? Who's to say? You, down below in the comments doing the engagement thing. And yeah, that's going to be it for me. Go ahead and share this or comment or like. Or dislike, that's your choice. You're allowed to do what you want. I don't, control you. Or check out the channel. We've got all kinds of great videos in all kinds of spaces and places. I appreciate you taking the time and listening. Peace.